Impossibility made real. Captain Maya Torres stared at the dusty red horizon of Mars colony, her hands wrapped around a mug of synthetic coffee gone cold hours ago. 5 years since her court-martial. 5 years since the hegemony had stripped her of command for dangerous cognitive irregularities incompatible with unified space governance. The memory still burned in her chest, like reactor fuel. She had disobeyed direct orders and saved 37 colonists trapped in the Ganymede disaster. According to hegemony calculation matrices, the risk-to-resource ratio had deemed them acceptable casualties. Maya had decided otherwise. The door to her tiny apartment hissed open without a chime, security overridden. Her hand moved instinctively to where her sidearm would have been. "They took that too, I imagine," said a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, his dark skin ashen from too many hours under artificial light. "Who the hell are you?" Maya demanded, already calculating the distance to the kitchen knife drawer. "Dr. Ellis Vance. Theoretical Physics. Former Hegemony Science Division." He placed a small device on her table that emitted a soft hum. "Privacy field. What I'm about to say would get us both disappeared." Maya leaned back, studying him. "I'm already disappeared, Doctor. What could you possibly offer me?" "A ship," he said simply. "A ship that shouldn't exist." Vance's tablet projected schematics into the air between them, a vessel unlike anything Maya had ever seen. Its configurations violated every principle of spacefaring design she'd learned at the Academy. "These drive configurations," she murmured, circling the hologram. "They contradict each other. The navigational system is routing through 11 dimensions simultaneously. Exactly why it cannot exist." Vance nodded, eyes bright with feverish intensity. "And exactly why it will work. The hegemony's entire technology is built on unbreakable mathematical certainty. Because the Exerco can't process contradictions," Maya finished, understanding dawning. The crystalline beings who dominated the hegemony operated on pure logic. It was why they'd found human unpredictability so disturbing and so useful until they began seeing it as a threat. "Their minds fragment when they encounter true paradox," Vance confirmed. "This ship isn't designed for them. It's designed for us. For humans who live with contradiction every day." Maya studied the specifications more carefully, professional instinct taking over. Quantum superposition drive, probability navigation, reality blurring shielding. This would outmaneuver any hegemony vessel. "If it works," Vance cautioned. "We've built the theoretical framework, but we're missing something crucial." Maya touched the hologram, expanding the pilot interface. "Neural links, cognitive feedback loops, consciousness integration systems. You don't need a pilot," she realized. "You need a mind that can encompass contradiction. Someone who can simultaneously believe they'll succeed while preparing for failure." Vance nodded, watching her. "Someone like you." Understanding crystallized. "That's why I was court-martialed. Not because I disobeyed orders, but because my psychological profile showed high tolerance for cognitive dissonance. The Exerco find that trait disturbing, potentially contagious." Maya stared at the schematics, her mind racing. "We'd need resources, materials, engineers who understand this technology and can keep secrets. I've been gathering all three. A research facility in the Kuiper Belt, materials salvaged from abandoned hegemony outposts, scientists and engineers blacklisted for creative irregularities." Vance's mouth quirked in a half smile. "And now, a captain." Maya's fingers traced the outline of the ship that shouldn't exist. "When do we start?" The Kuiper Belt facility was impressive, a hollowed-out dwarf planet shielded from detection by experimental technology. Inside, a warren of laboratories and fabrication chambers housed a team of 37 humans and 5 non-hegemony aliens, each brilliant, each bearing the haunted look of someone who had glimpsed truth and been punished for it. The quantum drive fluctuated between states, sometimes solid matter, sometimes pure energy, sometimes both simultaneously. The ship itself, dubbed improbability by the engineering team, shimmered as if it existed in multiple realities at once. The cognitive interface is ready for testing, announced Dr. Lena Chen, neural specialist whose research into consciousness had been banned by the hegemony. But I must warn you, Captain Torres, this is unlike any neural link you've experienced. This ship doesn't merely respond to your commands, it responds to your potential thoughts, to possibilities you haven't even considered. Maya nodded, settling into the interface chair as technicians attached sensors to her temples and spine. How will I know if it's working? You won't, said a melodic voice from behind her. Maya turned to see Zeth, a crystalline being resembling the Ksurko, but with fracture patterns throughout its form. A defector deemed irreparably irrational by its own kind. The successful state is one of perpetual uncertainty. Comforting, Maya muttered as the neural link activated. The connection was nothing like standard ship interfaces. Instead of feeling the ship as an extension of herself, Maya felt her consciousness expand outward, encompassing contradictory states simultaneously. The improbability existed across multiple probability states, neither fully here nor there. Neural synchronization at 72%, reported Chen, her voice seeming to come from both beside Maya and across vast distances. Quantum field stabilizing. The facility alarms suddenly blared. Proximity alert, announced the security system. Hegemony vessel entering the system. How did they find us? Vance demanded, rushing to monitoring stations. Pattern suggests targeted search, reported the security officer. They're deploying probability scanners that can detect quantum anomalies. Maya looked at the half-finished ship, feeling its readiness despite its incomplete state. How functional is it? The drive is operating, reported Chief Engineer Malik, but navigation is rudimentary. Life support is only. We don't need life support if we're not technically occupying conventional space, Maya pointed out. What about the neural interface? Untested beyond the lab, Chen warned. Then this is the field test, Maya decided. Prepare for emergency launch. Dr. Vance, get non-essential personnel to evacuation shuttles. And you? Vance asked, though his expression showed he already knew. I'll buy you time, Maya said, focusing on deepening the neural connection. And test our theory. As the facility evacuated, Maya embraced the contradictions flooding her mind. The ship was both complete and incomplete, both matter and energy, both here and elsewhere. She was simultaneously its pilot and its extension. Engaging quantum drive, she said, the words forming both in her mouth and in the ship's systems. Reality shifted. The Kuiper Belt facility didn't vanish so much as become one possibility among many. Through the viewports, Maya saw not the blackness of space, but a swirling tapestry of probabilities, pathways between stars that had always existed but remained invisible to conventional perception. The hegemony vessel appeared as a rigid construct, blind to the ocean of possibility surrounding it. It fired plasma torpedoes at where the improbability had been, but the shots passed through empty space. It worked, breathed Chen, checking instruments from the minimal bridge crew who had stayed behind. We're navigating through probability space. The hegemony can't track us here. Their sensors rely on mathematical certainty. Maya felt the ship responding to her thoughts, moving through layers of reality in ways that defied physics. They weren't traveling through space so much as selecting which version of space they occupied. Set course for Saturn's moons, she decided. There are research stations there with more scientists who will join us when they see what we've accomplished. As the improbability glided through the quantum sea of possibilities, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced since her court-martial. Hope. Not cautious optimism, but genuine belief that humanity had just changed the rules of a game rigged against them. The hegemony had dominated known space for centuries through technological superiority, based on perfect logic, but they had never faced a species that turned contradiction into strength. Until now. Over the following weeks, the improbability evolved. With each jump through probability space, the ship integrated more deeply with Maya's consciousness and the crew's collective capabilities. Systems that had been theoretical became functional. The vessel developed abilities its designers hadn't anticipated, as if the act of believing in impossibility made new realities manifest. They recruited others, pilots, engineers, theorists, all bearing the same mark of cognitive irregularity that the hegemony found so disturbing. Each brought new perspectives that expanded what the improbability could do. "It's not just a ship anymore," Vance observed, watching Maya navigate through probability streams with increasing confidence. "It's becoming something else entirely." "It's becoming what we need it to be," Maya replied, feeling the ship's systems pulse in agreement. "The question is, what do we do with it now?" The answer came unexpectedly. During a probability jump near Jupiter, the improbability intercepted hegemony communications, discussions of a final solution to the human cognitive contagion. "They're planning to sterilize Earth," Maya announced grimly to her assembled crew. "They consider our kind of thinking an existential threat to their order." "They're right," said Zeth, crystal form vibrating with intensity. "Human cognitive flexibility threatens the very foundation of hegemony logic. That is why the improbability functions. It embodies the contradiction that they cannot process." "So we fight," said Chen. "With one ship?" Engineer Malik questioned. "Against the hegemony fleet." Maya smiled, feeling the improbability systems resonate with possibilities yet untapped. "We won't be fighting conventionally, and we won't be fighting alone." The improbability had proven that impossibility was merely a matter of perspective. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity could really do when freed from the constraints of certainty. Defiance among the stars. The improbability materialized in Earth orbit with a ripple of quantum distortion, briefly existing in multiple positions before settling into conventional reality. Proximity alarms immediately blared. "Hegemony blockade," reported Malik from the tactical station. 17 vessels in standard containment formation around the planet. Maya disengaged partially from the neural interface, the transition leaving phantom sensations that made normal reality seem flat and constraining. "They've locked down the entire planet. How did they respond so quickly?" "They didn't," Vance said, examining communication logs. "This blockade was established 2 weeks ago. The hegemony has implemented emergency protocols throughout the solar system." "Because of us?" Chen asked. "Because of what we represent," Zeth said, crystal form vibrating with agitation. "The Exurco have detected a fundamental threat to their epistemological framework." Maya moved to the command console, still feeling echoes of the ship's systems in her mind. "Explain." "The hegemony's authority rests on mathematical certainty," Zeth explained. "Their technology, their treaties, their very sense of superiority, all derive from their belief in unbreakable logical rules. A ship that operates by embracing contradiction doesn't merely outmaneuver them, it undermines reality as they understand it." Maya studied the blockade formation, noting vulnerabilities invisible to conventional tactical analysis. The hegemony ships were positioned to intercept vessels moving through normal space, but the improbability didn't move through normal space. "We need to evacuate key personnel from Earth," she decided. "Scientists, engineers, cultural leaders, anyone the hegemony might target first." 17 warships against one prototype, Malik observed grimly. "Even with our capabilities, those aren't good odds." Maya smiled. "Then we'll change the odds." The improbability's first engagement with the hegemony blockade became legend overnight. The vessel phased through probability states, appearing briefly in conventional space, only to vanish again before hegemony weapons could lock on. Each appearance seemed random to hegemony sensors, but followed a pattern comprehensible only to a human mind that understood both order and chaos simultaneously. One by one, the hegemony ships found themselves disabled. Weapons systems reconfigured into contradictory states that rendered them useless, navigation computers processing conflicting inputs that sent them spiraling away from Earth. No hegemony vessel was destroyed. They simply found themselves incapable of maintaining the blockade as their systems encountered paradoxes they weren't designed to resolve. Down on Earth, Maya addressed the United Earth Council, explaining the threat and the unprecedented opportunity. The hegemony has controlled humanity through technological superiority based on mathematical certainty, she told the assembled leaders. We've discovered that our greatest weakness, our illogical, contradictory human nature, is actually our greatest strength. The improbability proves that. The Council was skeptical until Vance demonstrated the quantum technology that powered their ship. Within days, Earth's remaining shipyards were retooling to incorporate elements of the improbability's design. They couldn't replicate the full vessel. That would take years. But they could adapt existing ships with quantum uncertainty generators that would make them harder for hegemony systems to target. We're not creating a fleet that can destroy the hegemony, Maya explained to her growing command staff. We're creating a fleet they cannot comprehend. The hegemony's response was swift and brutal. A punitive armada entered the solar system, led by the dreadnought Absolute Certainty. Their message was simple: surrender the improbability and its technology, or Earth would be reduced to molten slag. They're afraid, Zeth observed, studying the hegemony formations, not merely of defeat, but of cognitive contamination. The Exerco ruling council fears exposure to human thinking patterns could spread through their population. Good, Maya said. Then let's give them something to really worry about. The battle for Earth unfolded across 11 dimensions simultaneously. Conventional ships from Earth engaged the outer perimeter of the hegemony armada, while the improbability, now joined by 3 smaller vessels incorporating aspects of its technology, struck at the heart of the formation. The Absolute Certainty was massive, a crystalline structure housing the most advanced computational systems in known space. It fired weapons that bent gravity, compressed time, and reconfigured matter itself. Against conventional opposition, it would have been unstoppable. But the improbability wasn't conventional. Under Maya's guidance, it slipped between probability states, existing simultaneously in multiple positions, reflecting weapon fire back upon itself through quantum entanglement. Their flagship is experiencing cascading system failures, reported Malik, reading sensor data. The paradox effect is spreading through their command network. Maya felt the improbability systems evolve further during combat, developing capabilities that hadn't existed minutes before. The neural interface deepened until the distinction between herself and the ship blurred entirely. We need to push them past the breaking point, she said, both to her crew and to the fleet. Full cognitive assault. The improbability transmitted directly into the hegemony communication network, not data, but raw human thought patterns, art containing deliberate contradictions, music that resolved harmonically while maintaining dissonance, poetry that conveyed opposite meanings simultaneously. Throughout the hegemony fleet, Serco commanders began experiencing system failures as their crystalline minds encountered paradoxes they couldn't resolve. Some ships went dormant. Others retreated in disarray. At the center, the Absolute Certainty shuddered as if in pain, its crystalline structure fracturing from within. We're winning, Chen breathed, watching the tactical display. No, Maya corrected, feeling something unexpected through the neural link. We're communicating. Deep within the hegemony flagship, something was changing. The rigid crystalline intelligence that had governed the Serco for millennia was fragmenting, but not collapsing. Instead, it was reconfiguring into something new, a form of consciousness that could hold contradiction. They're evolving, Zeth whispered, crystal form resonating with the changes detected in the flagship. Some among them are adapting to paradox instead of rejecting it. Through the neural link, Maya felt contact, alien minds reaching out in confusion and revelation. The hegemony had encountered humanity's cognitive patterns before, but always filtered through technology, designed to eliminate contradiction. For the first time, they were experiencing human thought directly. The absolute certainty's weapons went offline. A communication channel opened. "We perceive differently now," came a voice unlike any Xerco communication before, halting, uncertain, but alive with new understanding. "Your contradiction contains truth." Maya exchanged glances with her bridge crew before responding. "That's what makes us human. We live in the space between certainties. We request cessation of hostilities. We require time to process these new cognitive patterns." The battle ended not with destruction but with revelation. The hegemony armada withdrew, not in defeat, but in philosophical crisis. The Xerco who had been exposed to human thought patterns found themselves changed, compelled to reconsider millennia of absolute certainty. In the months that followed, humanity expanded through the solar system and beyond, building more ships incorporating aspects of the improbability's design. Not all were warships. The technology that emerged from embracing contradiction proved revolutionary for exploration, for science, for understanding reality itself. The improbability remained unique, evolving faster than any vessel derived from its principles, bonded to Maya and her crew in ways that defied explanation. It became humanity's flagship not merely in war, but in diplomacy, as a new relationship with the transformed elements of the hegemony took shape. "They still don't fully understand us," Vance commented, watching a delegation of Xerco, their crystal forms now showing deliberate fracture patterns, board the improbability for diplomatic talks. "Understanding isn't the point," Maya replied, feeling the ship hum with possibilities around them. "Coexistence doesn't require understanding. It just requires acceptance that different forms of cognition can be equally valid." The improbability continued to evolve, as did humanity's place in the cosmos. The ship that shouldn't exist had not merely survived. It had transformed the foundation of interstellar relations by proving that impossibility was merely a perspective waiting to be transcended. Maya Torres, once court-martialed for dangerous cognitive irregularities, now stood at the forefront of a new era where those same irregularities were recognized as humanity's greatest contribution to cosmic civilization. The warship that shouldn't exist had done more than dominate the stars. It had reimagined what existence itself could mean.